If you're craving a fresh perspective on self-love and personal growth, then stick around. Today I'm breaking down how this week's cosmic shifts, powered by Aquarius innovation and Leo empowerment, can help you step into your fullest potential. Hi everybody, welcome to A Piece of Chrissy, where I help you make sense of current astrological themes and transit and give you actionable steps and tricks to help you live your most fulfilling and peaceful life. This week we will be looking at 4 major astrological events taking place in the week from February 10th to February 16th. Starting with a conjunction of Mercury and Ceres on Tuesday, followed by a powerful full moon in Leo on Wednesday. Expect a very special Valentine's Day with Mercury entering Pisces and the Sun conjunct Ceres on Friday. And then we finish off the week on Sunday with the asteroid Pallas entering into the sign of Aquarius. We will look at what each of these transits signify, and I will also be giving you practical tips, rituals, exercises, and mindset shifts to help you ride the coming waves and utilize them to your highest benefit. So let's look at these in a little bit more detail now, starting on Tuesday with Mercury conjuncting Ceres. You're probably very familiar with Mercury already. Mercury gets a lot of press, especially when it goes retrograde, which is actually fairly often. But Ceres doesn't really get the same buzz around it. And nevertheless, it's a very interesting point to look at. Ceres is one of the 4 goddess asteroids, another one of them being Pallas, which we will discuss later on in this video. And these goddess asteroids are a great reminder that even the less well-known astrological objects can actually hold very powerful clues about what is going on, what we're experiencing, which are very applicable to our everyday lives. Now, Ceres is sometimes called an asteroid, sometimes a dwarf planet, depending on how old your source is. Size-wise, it's somewhere in between. It's pretty large for an asteroid and fairly small for a dwarf planet. But in astrology, the meanings attributed to Ceres are those of nurturing, of caring for things while they are in a vulnerable state, things, people, and obviously also ourselves, helping them across this initial fragile growing stage until they are strong enough to stand on their own. And when this energy meets with Mercury, the planet of communication, we naturally open up to more nurturing, more nourishing, and more kind ways of expressing ourselves and communicating with each other. And there's this strange phenomenon that happens with people, myself included, in that the closer we are to somebody, the harsher our words towards them can be when we're under any form of stress. So we end up saying things to our family members or to a partner that we wouldn't dream of saying to a friend. Or we say things to a flatmate that never in a million years would we say to a co-worker, and so on. And actually this gets more and more pronounced the closer we are to somebody, with the harshest form of communication usually directed towards ourselves. We make a mistake, and immediately we are in a dialogue starts belittling us, calling us names, calling us failures, and all sorts of nasty things that if anyone said those out loud, you would be absolutely horrified. And then we wonder why we cannot accomplish our hopes and our dreams when every time that we're not perfect, we're essentially completely demoralizing ourselves. And I'm not immune from that. So even with all of this work and personal growth that I've done, I actually recorded this video already once before, but I made a mistake and I hoped that I could fix it afterwards, and I couldn't fix it, and then I had to re-record the entire video. And still the first internal reaction that I had was to call myself all sorts of horrible things, call myself a total idiot, until I then realized that actually this is not helping and everyone makes mistakes and we just have to learn from our mistakes. Well, the good news is that just as our own self-talk can put us down, it also has the ability to lift us up. And Tuesday's energy is going to be a really good opportunity to do so. We are going to be naturally more inclined to be kinder with our words, kinder with our communication. And both of these planets are meeting in the sign of Aquarius, which also rules groups and friendships. So this tells us there is quite a large potential to not just heal ourselves through kinder, nurturing communication, but to also heal each other. Aquarius is also the sign of the unusual and the unexpected. So this gives us a great opportunity to really examine our self-talk, whether that's just with ourselves or with the help of a friend, and come up with new ways of reframing that self-talk where it is disempowering. So, your exercise for Tuesday is to fully utilize this energy and really examine your self-talk and pay attention where you instinctively slip into negative, disempowering self-talk, and then replace those statements with kinder, more nurturing ones. Think of what you would say to a dear friend, a child, or somebody that you care about deeply if they were in the same situation as you. And then you're going to see yourself essentially erasing that thought as if it was written on a whiteboard and writing the new, more empowering, more positive thought over the top of it. And the interesting thing is, the more you do that, the easier it becomes to actually get to the root cause of what is causing that negative self-talk and to address that root cause in a much more productive, logical, and effective way, because you're not wasting so much energy essentially fighting with yourself. Now that we've explored how nurturing communication can shift our inner self-dialogue, let's shift our focus to the creative energy of the full moon in Leo on Wednesday. Because Leo is all about creativity, the inner child, and radical self-love. And so the full moon is really going to help us illuminate and purge anything that isn't in alignment with that self-love. The moon is receiving a trine from Chiron, so this tells us that this is going to be a healing experience for everyone, but particularly for those of you with placements in Aquarius or Leo. Now, there is also a square to Uranus, the ruler of Aquarius, where the sun is right now, indicating that there might be some unexpected events in store for us that are going to truly show us where we are not loving ourselves and where we are not stepping into our creative potential. If you find that there are a lot of emotions coming up during this full moon, then any type of creative activity, whether that's writing, drawing, painting, crafting, woodworking, photography, anything that you feel drawn to is going to offer a really healthy way to process and release these emotions. Essentially, imagine that this full moon is a spotlight. It's illuminating you on the stage, fulfilling your highest creativity and performing to your highest ability. And you can imagine there being an audience full of loving supporters or an empty room, whatever you feel more comfortable with. But really, this Leo energy is encouraging us to step into the spotlight and to enjoy our moment where we get to shine and where we get to be adored and loved by others for what we have accomplished. I'd love it if you shared one creative activity that you're excited to try during this full moon in the comments, so that we can inspire each other and cheer on each other's creative genius, because we all have one of those. And if you'd like to perform a full moon ritual, I have a very quick but very, very profound one that I would like to suggest to you. So set the scene, dim the lights, put some nice music on, light some candles, get yourself into some warm, cozy clothes, make it a vibe, essentially. And grab a journal, grab something to write, and start writing down some positive self-love affirmations. These can be things like, I am loved, I am enough, I am exactly where I need to be right now, I express myself confidently and authentically, I am worthy. Just to give you a few examples, and just write down a couple of those. Get the creative juices flowing until you run out of ideas, essentially. And then I'm going to challenge you. I'm going to challenge you to take those affirmations that you've just written down, go stand in front of a mirror, look yourself in the eyes, and say them out loud 3 times, and say them like you mean them. And if this feels or sounds really cringe to you, then that is probably a sign that you would really benefit from this exercise. Because really, why should the thought of looking at yourself, really truly looking at yourself and seeing yourself and giving yourself true unfiltered love be anything but pleasant? And yet just the thought can be so uncomfortable for so many of us. So let's normalize this. Let's normalize giving ourselves love and receiving love from ourselves. And this can be a very small but powerful step towards that. So now let's carry this loving theme onto Valentine's Day on Friday. And it really doesn't matter whether you're spending Valentine's Day with a partner, with your friends, or just by honoring yourself. I love the way that Valentine's Day has evolved from this super cliched roses and chocolates day meant only for couples and only heterosexual couples at that, into this much broader and fuller celebration of love in general. We still have a bit to go in that respect as a species, but in general, we're doing much better at that than we used to. And this year, with the Sun conjuncting Ceres in Aquarius on Valentine's Day, that's the theme that we're going to be running with. Compassion for ourselves, which is going to spill out and extend to be compassion towards others, no matter how quirky or eccentric or unusual they may be. This energy is going to be available to everybody on Friday, but of course it's up to the individual whether or not they want to step into it. Although, of course, I highly recommend that you do. Mercury also enters Pisces, which softens our communication and makes it easier to put kind of hazy, ethereal concepts into words. Things that have just been vague ideas, intuitive insights, hazy dreams are going to be much easier to be expressed and thus communicated with other people. And so if you are spending Valentine's Day with others, it's going to be so much easier to get on the same page and have these deep, profound, meaningful conversations about things that we don't often talk about. This will be a great day to do a metta meditation, also known as loving kindness meditation. I'm not going to go into too much detail about what metta meditation is. There's loads and loads of videos on YouTube. There's loads of meditation apps that feature one or several versions of it that will guide you through it step by step. But just in general, metta meditation comes from the Buddhist tradition, although you don't have to be Buddhist to practice it. And essentially what you're doing is you are focusing on a feeling of compassion. First, compassion for yourself, then compassion for your loved ones, compassion for your neighbors and general acquaintances, for humanity as a whole, and then eventually you extend that out to all living beings. Some people can be a bit put off by it because of the cheesy name, loving kindness meditation, but with this powerful loving and nurturing energy on Friday, I really encourage you to give it a try if you haven't already, because it works so beautifully with that Valentine's Day energy, and chances are you're going to feel pretty amazing afterwards. And if meditation is not your jam, that's fine. I would still encourage you to find ways to express self-love, whether that's something like wearing the expensive perfume, getting yourself some nice flowers, running yourself a bath. But there's different ways that self-love can be expressed. Sometimes it is these things like pampering ourselves, using the nice things, treating ourselves. Sometimes self-love can be expressed by being kind on yourself, by not expecting too much, by going to bed early because you're tired and that's what your body is telling you that it needs from you. Or the most loving thing to do can be keeping a promise that you made to yourself. Maybe you promised yourself that you would work on a passion project, and the most loving thing to do will be to keep that promise to yourself. So there's loads and loads of different ways. Feel free to leave a comment down below to let us know your favorite self-love practice so that we can get ideas and inspire each other. Either way, let this energy be a reminder that love begins with ourselves. So after a week of loving ourselves through thick and through thin, we are finishing the week off with Pallas entering into Aquarius. Pallas is another one of the 4 goddess asteroids, another one being Ceres, which we discussed earlier, and then you also have Vesta and Juno, which we will talk about in some future videos. Pallas is probably the most feisty one of the lot. She is a warrior goddess, but she also represents wisdom and strategy. Pallas is the embodiment of work smarter, not harder, especially in the sign of Aquarius. In this sign, we may find ourselves suddenly coming up with fresh, unconventional solutions for problems that we've been stuck on for ages. She's going to help us see the bigger picture and find ways around issues where we've been banging our head against the wall. So in general, this is a transit where you do kind of want to keep a notebook handy or keep your phone handy for some voice memos so that you can record any of these new ideas that are coming in before you forget them. But seeing as the day that Pallas enters Aquarius on Sunday is also the last day of the week, this is actually a great opportunity to incorporate that energy into our weekly review. So perhaps you already do a weekly review on Sunday. If not, it might be worth just going through your calendar, looking at the pictures you've taken, reviewing some previous journal entries just to remind yourself what you got up to that week, and just journaling on what went well that week, what worked really well for you, and where and how you might improve. If there's something that you've been procrastinating on, whether that was during the week or maybe already for a much longer time, then I would invite you to really sit with that and sit with that discomfort. It doesn't have to be for long. It can just be 10 minutes. That's plenty. And just sit with that and think about why you have been putting this task off for so long. Maybe the task is too big. Maybe you need to break it down into smaller chunks so that it doesn't feel quite so overwhelming. Maybe you've been doing lots of research and now you're stuck in analysis paralysis and you just need to take some kind of action and get over that initial hurdle. Maybe there's a different hurdle that you need to get over. Maybe there is some kind of risk involved. Maybe there is a risk of what other people may think or how you may be perceived if you carry on doing the thing that you set out to do. Or maybe you just don't care about it anymore and it just needs to be delegated or crossed off your list because actually it's not that important anymore. So just sit with that for a bit because chances are good that you will come up with new solutions that simply weren't in your realm of perception before. So we have a week of compassion and nurturing and love ahead of us, which will be topped off with new wisdom and new insights that will help us step closer towards our goals. I'd love to hear which transit resonated with you the most. So drop me a comment, like this video, and hit subscribe for more cosmic insights that will help you live your most empowered life. Learn to work with these currents and influences so that they can help you understand yourself on a much deeper level and live a more joyful and more fulfilled life. Your journey of self-mastery is only just beginning.